Hi, good evening all. Ms. Smith just sent this I ain't had a chance to read this. Oh, yeah, I just saw the time it was sent, so.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Anybody got a chance to look at chapter 2? Chapter 2 is, I guess, straightforward, like I said. Did y'all get an email from me?
Can I? Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Yeah. That's a handout that we'll go over. Yeah. But for those of you here, a quiz will be next week. We'll be on chapter 1 and chapter 2. Like I said, I don't give a lot of quiz. So we're gonna try to, chapter 2 is quite small. Yeah, so we'll go over chapter 2 tonight and see if we could dive into chapter 3. Yeah. And then when we come, like I say, the quiz shouldn't be too long, but I'm going to see if Miguel, Mr. Pratt, will do it, or he would be able to let me do it. Yeah. Hello, feedback. Yeah. So a quiz will be next week. Yeah, but I'll speak with Mr. Pratt and we'll be able to see, because usually he does all the quiz and exams for me, but I will see if he allow me to do it, and I will invigilate it. So I'll be right here watching you. Make sure you all in. I remember one class, he must be, didn't pay much attention, because that person, I couldn't even see how they get anything right, but they did. So yeah. Miss Burrows.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi. Got a chance to read?
Yes, I did.
Did you get my email?
I got it just a few moments ago, but
Okay.
I am not able to print it.
Why would happen? Well, I don't need you to print it now. I just need you to say that you have it, because it's a handout that I want to go over. Something that it's more practical. that I wanted y'all to see. Yeah.
You found it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Chapter, come here. Oh, my.
What's up, baby?
Yeah, 1 kilo.
Want cereal?
Yeah.
Your daddy right in the kitchen.
Boom, 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 boom.
Somebody have a thing on like it everything. Yeah. Okay, so everybody had a chance to read, right? So we good to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hello.
Yes, ma'am, we're here.
Okay. Property loss exposure, real property, personal property, direct loss, indirect loss. Then you have sex and property loss exposure. Okay. Miss Brown knows. You had a chance to read. Can you speak to real property and personal property?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so what I gathered from real property that it has to do with building, like actual property, like buildings and personal property would be like the items that you would have inside the house, like probably your iPad, your laptop, and what's not.
See, they even say animals. Your textbook.
Yes, ma'am, and I was trying to read, at least memorize what I had rather than say it out the book.
Yeah,
yes,
they
ma'am,
say
animals.
animals, cars, money, clothes, your furniture, even your textbook, airplanes. Yeah.
Yes,
Real
ma'am.
property deals with land or structure, whether it's an attachment, like, a lot of times people like to add on, so addition. Yeah, so real property deals with that. And whatever is growing on the land. So if you have food trees, crops, so that is real property. So property loss and exposure deals with real property, which is land, attachment, building, or even crops. Personal properties, like you said, deals with cars, clothes, furniture, textbooks, and even your animals.
Your walls and fences?
Pardon me?
Your walls, fences, gates, and such?
I would think so.
Any, what you call it, anything like improvement, home improvement?
Yeah,
that you
home
would,
improvement. Yeah.
Okay.
Because like when you do your building appraisal, or you get an appraisal done, the first thing they do, they look at all of that. They look at your landscaping. Even people don't even know that when you get an appraisal done or you're selling something, they take into consideration all the fruit trees, your coconut tree, all those trees are part of your appraisal. When you look at it, you see them have that's something that, okay, you beautifying the property, you upgrading the property. Some people trees, one coconut tree or a soursop tree, mango tree, all them, they are valuable. So yeah, that's why you see it say building and crops. Yeah, so it's valuable. So with you upgrade, so you put the wall around, you put a little gazebo, so all those stuff taken into consideration as property loss. And if anything happened, loss and exposure. Because I know I had a situation where I had a wall and I was like, okay, I hear this big boom. I said, well, what happened there? Well, when I looked on the balcony and looked over, the Jeep was all up in my yard. And that Jeep was total. And so they had to pay. Their insurance had to pay for my wall to be fixed, Yeah, so all of that is taken into consideration. Property loss exposure, direct loss, indirect loss. direct loss occurs when there is a damage to the property. And when they say damage to the property, what do you think they mean?
From like, what do you mean? Like, where would it occur from? Like
Damage to the property.
hurricane? Damage to the
Could be.
property, it probably means flooding, damages,
Fire.
roof.
What about you have a driveway and that's uprooted?
Yeah, it's damage. It's damage. Yeah. Yeah.
Windows, doors.
All of that. Damage to the property. And then you say indirect loss occurs when a direct loss causes expenses to increase or revenue to decline. So what do you think they mean by sometimes some losses cause things in revenue to increase or revenue to decline, expenses to increase and revenue to decline?
When it's underinsured?
Yeah, because a lot of times a lot of persons, and I think with Hurricane with Dorian, a lot of persons and I think we talked about it before, when you underinsured, it's so hard to even get compensation because also too your deductible is so much. Is by the time they say to you that this is what you would end up with, you have to come. It's the deductible is so high, so you end up with really nothing. So yeah, so all those stuff takes into consideration. Many insurance contract insures both direct and indirect losses in the same contract. When dealing with property insurance, there are usually only two parties to the contract, the insured and the insurer. Yeah. So we know, and how many of you actually read your contract, your insurance contract, be it life, be it health, be it insurance for property, contents, house insurance, and the contents in the house, your jewelry. A lot of people have jewelry insured too. How many of you actually read your contract? The small print.
I do.
What happened to y'all tonight? Y'all had a rough day, eh? Oh, Miss Burrows.
I don't. Parts of it I do, but not the whole thing.
Okay.
A serious bedtime reading.
Yeah, but it's something that we all need to practice to do because, like, sometimes when things happen, we make noise at the insurer and say, "Oh, what happened? Y'all ain't do this and this ain't." And they only thing they have to say to you is, "Well, did you read the fine prints?" We don't. We just browse through it, but we don't go through it with like a small tooth comb and just look at everything. We don't do that. Yeah, and that's where a lot of times at the end of the day, we end up losing. And so our expenses could get high and our revenue could decline because we don't read. But, and so a lot of stuff we don't capture. And like sometimes even when you have insurance, they would say to you, they would tell you, oh, you're under insured. You need to increase your insurance. Do you think many persons pay attention to that?
No.
No, we don't. They'd be like, what they talking about? I done paying them $4,000 and they talking about I need to increase. So my building be on par what it should be. And then when a storm come or something happen or something stolen or some damage to the property, we go to claim and then they say that's what, here's a letter, we told you to increase it, now it's undervalued and this is all we could give you. Miss Burrows, sign here today.
I'm here. I'm here.
You had a
Listening.
rough day.
A lot of studying. Oh,
A lot of studying. Man, you
Yeah.
just start.
I have more than
You
one
did.
class. Right.
How much class you have? 2? Accounting?
Yeah. Yes.
Or why you like Mr. Wilkinson?
Yeah, no, he's fine. He's fine. Uh,
Well, accounting is on a different level, so yeah, it is. You're doing accounting, financial accounting, eh?
yeah.
Okay. That'll be all right. Yeah.
So, Ms. Smith,
Hi.
so I have an example of what you were just talking about.
Mhm.
So, of not and the importance of reading your contract. So I had a
Uh-huh.
vehicle and my vehicle was stolen, but it was in
Uh-huh.
comprehensive insurance. So all I knew
Uh-huh.
is I contacted them and I asked them and told them I needed comprehensive insurance for my vehicle. They
Right.
gave me the quote and that's what I went with. So
Mhm.
now 5-6 years later, my car is stolen. I don't have a vehicle. I contact them, let them know the car is stolen and that I need a rental because I understand that once you have comprehensive insurance, that's a part of it.
Right.
They told me that my comprehensive insurance did not include a rental because I have basic comprehensive and
Uh-huh.
the comprehensive that includes the rental is full comprehensive. So I said to the lady, well, no one explained this to me when I was getting signed up for the insurance. I asked for comprehensive insurance and this is what you gave. You didn't tell me that there was a difference between comprehensive insurance. I thought once you had comprehensive insurance, that covered everything. But because I didn't read it, I realized that I was wrong.
Yep, and it happens. Like I said, I didn't even know that either. You're saying it now. I thought once I say comprehensive, it include everything. That's what I thought. I'm happy that you brought that to my attention because I thought once I say comprehensive, not just the basic, it's just comprehensive. So I'm insured for the whole 9 yards. But I guess, like I say, that's why it's imperative that we read, because like I say, with anything, a lot of times, agents, customer service reps, they don't tell you everything that you need to know. Some things you just have to read. And then if you have questions, you go back to them and say, okay, in reading my contract, or like with the banks is an agreement, reading the agreement, you simply say, oh, I didn't understand this. What's this all about? But we don't do it. So because we don't do it, we only find out things when a problem arises. And that's when we find out, well, hey, I didn't pay attention to this. So now I'm in the loss. Or I
Also,
got. Mhm.
to add to her, I have a work bus, a
Mhm.
little Japanese little bus, and I
Mhm.
wanted to get comprehensive for that vehicle.
Mhm.
And I got it, but
Mhm.
this particular coverage is only for total damage. So I have comprehensive, but only if the car or the bus is written off, then they would cover it.
Mhm.
But if I get a little fender bender, they would pay for the other vehicle, but not my vehicle.
Yours? Well, I
Yeah.
thought only third party used to pay that. So that
Right.
means
Third
only,
party.
No, it isn't third party, but it's
but
just
that's
maybe
that
just about
stipulation,
third party. Yeah, because
right?
it's an older bus, but I
Mhm.
wanted to have full coverage on it.
Mhm.
But yeah, like the only
Well,
difference
that's.
from third party
Mhm.
and this is if I have a total damage or flood or fire, then they would pay me for it.
What
Other
about if it's stolen?
no, not if it's stolen.
Because
Total
nowadays
damage.
it's
That's it.
So that's not
nowadays
comprehensive.
nowadays it's like it's good to have, because everybody around here trying to thief your car. And if you have one Japanese car, that's it. People, I watch a video where they yucking 2 fenders off the car bumper. So it's like, a lot of people is trying to, and they in this insured up to how much years? 8 or 9. After 9 years, they ain't insuring it no more. So if you get insurance on something, I always be looking for insurance company that will insure your car comprehensive, like even like you say, full damage. But more, like I say, they don't even tell you about that one. I've never even heard that. Chanel, I haven't heard that. Yeah. So only if it's fully written off, they would pay for it. Anybody else? Had any issues? Then you'd see property loss exposure. Not all types of properties are insurable. Coverage cannot be purchased for loss of goodwill or loss of copyright. When they say goodwill and copyright, what does that mean?
Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm just listening for y'all to say something.
Oh, I thought there was someone trying to answer. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna take a guess. Would that be if someone tries to insure a property that isn't the rightful owner?
Copyrights. When copyrights come into play, it's usually like, say, somebody else writes something, they write a song or they do this. Copyrights, you can't insure it.
Right.
You can't insure the copyright. And then you see also you can't insure property, just a vacant property, which they call raw land. You can't insure that. You can't insure. So you purchase a piece of property. I don't even understand why. How would you be able to insure just a land, because no structure is on it? So I can't even understand why someone would be trying to say I can insure a land. You can't, you know. Then it says they say raw land is
Unless they have
Mhm.
crops on it,
Mhm.
or you have people would have
Right, crops,
land with no
yes.
structure. Yeah.
Yes. But like I say, I guess persons who farm, they should be able to insure their stock, their crops. And
Yeah.
then too, like people have livestock on it. Because you
Right.
see further back, it said in personal property, you could insure the animal. So yeah. So you can insure the animals. So I guess livestock and crops, like you say, they should be able to be insured. Yeah. Sex and property loss exposures. For insurance purposes, animals are considered property. So an animal is a property, so you can insure that animal. Firms must be able to manage loss to or from the animal and lean to the learn to manage the animals during the mating season. Well, so they're saying these animals could be insured, but it is on the firm to be able to manage the loss to or from the animals and learn to manage the animals during the mating season. Why you think they're saying that you have to be able to manage the animals during mating season?
Some animals become like bulls.
Yeah, because animals wander off. They could wander off someplace else in somebody else's property and they get lost. And if you're not really paying attention and you don't have proper gate and fence and everything to keep them in, what happens then? They wander off. And when mating season come with whoever it is, they find their way to mate. Yeah. Then we have liability exposure. One of the most serious financial risks that risk managers must deal with. Loss through legal liability for harm caused to others. Just for instance, would you look at the situation that just happened yesterday? The lady came out of her car in her driveway, out of her car. This gentleman, I guess he breeds pit bull, or he have I think they say a security firm or security that he I guess he gives his dog to. So she got out of the car. When she saw them coming towards her, she tried to get back in the car, but she stumbled. I'm not sure if any of you saw the photos. Those dogs really did her in. They did her in. She
Saw on
had
Facebook.
yeah, she had, I saw where they couldn't show her head because they say how the dog did it. It was like part of her skull was exposed. And she is a cancer survivor, you know. And so that situation, that person who owns those dogs, they should be, she should go to, file a legal case against him because harm was his creatures caused harm to her. And we've been having a lot of that where and I've never seen where or heard where in court persons being prosecuted and had to actually pay persons who was harmed by your dog. Have you all?
No.
No, ma'am, not
Not
over
over
here.
here, not
I've
over
heard
here.
where they pay for their medical bills, but not
Yeah, but what
necessarily.
happens if the person can't work?
Right. Yeah.
Because if you see that this woman being a cancer survivor, if you saw the stitch one of her, I guess, family members posted on her hands, on her legs, on her back, they couldn't show her head. They blotted out blurred out, so you couldn't really see. Say, but it was too gruesome. You could imagine that. But I think they had to shoot one of the dogs. Yeah, so. And that's the people don't understand when you have dogs, if they like pit bull, you have to make sure that they totally say the yard is not secure that way it should be. You have to make sure those dogs are really secure in there, and they sound real vicious. That's how they did it. You could imagine 4 dogs on you at one time. Yeah, 4 of them.
So was she on a
On her
company
property,
premises or on her property?
hers. Yeah, she was coming out her car and she spot them and they spot her. And she tried to get back in the car after seeing them coming towards her, but she stumbled. And her
Wow.
stumbling, they all just gone down. 4 of them gone down on her. Yeah. Insurance for liability losses is more complex than property insurance because people other than the insured and the insurer are involved. Liability is usually determined by providing negligence. Right there, negligence. If the owner had actually had those pit bulls secure, that couldn't have happened, but he didn't. So that on his part is negligence. And I think she should be able to go to court, sue him, make more than her medical bills, because guess what? She have them scars on her, because they were not little stitches, not little marks I saw on her. They were real big marks. So he was negligent in making sure that his dogs were secured. So she should be able to sue him, not just for medical. No, I'm a cancer survivor. She's an
The pain
11
and
year.
suffering as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and suppose she's work, stuff like that. She's an 11-year cancer survivor. And like she said, she survived all the pain and the chemo going through that regarding the cancer. But she says she don't ever think she'll ever forget what happened with this situation, this battle with these dogs,
That's traumatizing.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Types of liability damage. Insurance contracts are designed to pay only for certain types of losses, usually restricted to pay for bodily harm, bodily injury, property damage, personal injury, legal expenses. When they say bodily damage, bodily injury, it's what we're just talking about. Usually restricted to pay for bodily property damage. Somebody, like nowadays, people come and they just come on your property and they just take whatever belongs to them because it don't belong to you. I know for me, when we were building our house, I came that Saturday. We just put in the windows and the doors that Friday. I came that Saturday morning. I looked up. I see something strange when I looked at the doors. All the windows were gone. All were gone. So the insurance company looked at us. They didn't even pay us the full value. They paid us some. So when you're building, it usually sometimes the same persons who put them in are the ones who come and take them out. And because people saw them there before,
Yes, ma'am.
people just felt, well, oh, they probably left something and they just went back. But in the meantime, they were actually stealing, personal injuries. We know, like a lot of times you park your car and you look, what happened to it? The owners take it. The owners strip it. Yeah. You in your car in the mall, going in your car, and they say get out, car abandoned, mash up because the police chasing them. So, and then legal expenses. Well, legal expenses come into play. Like I say with that situation with the lady, I would take him to court. He would be paying my legal fees too, because it's like, how can you have those type of dogs in an unsecured property? Anybody else have anything else? Now you all better talk today. I tell you all, last night in my class, I had to drink water twice because I say read and nobody was helping me. I was just talking. Anyway, Ms. Burrows, tackle types of liability damage for me.
Okay. Types of liability damages. You have bodily injury, which includes liability for losses a person may incur because his or her body or mind has been harmed. I guess
Which
the
we just
example
talked
of the
about.
lady, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which could include the payments of medical bills, loss of
Right.
income,
Right. Mm-hmm.
rehabilitation costs, loss of services, pain and suffering, like the lady mentioned as well,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
damages, and punitive damages.
Right. So that's why I say a lot of times people look at stuff and say, oh, medical? No. Like, anybody know that if a taxi driver, you hit a taxi driver or a bus driver and you at fault and he can't drive that bus, you liable to, how much he's make every day? Oh.
Yeah, you have to pay his average. It's like almost like an average salary. Him, a bus driver or a taxi driver.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But if they hit you, it's a different story.
Yep.
But if you don't have in an instance with our culture, if let's just say the person who hit the taxi driver really don't have no money to pay, where that taxi driver will get the money?
I guess he can get him to court.
Well, we
And
know
you know a
how
lot.
that is, you know.
And you know a lot of people on the road too even
don't
have
have
insurance. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, car insurance. I just hope now they get, because a lot of times when people hit and run or something happen and somebody die and something like that, or police chase, what has happened? What they say, the person didn't even have driver's license, no insurance. So a whole lot of stuff, they didn't have
Look how
nothing.
somebody can die.
And then you can go to jail.
Don't worry about that. I know how to do it and don't get caught.
Okay.
I gotta get to and from work. And they what? Oh, I had a young lady hit my car. The parents said, please don't call the police. I said, okay, I won't. When the parents came, they met the police there. Child had no insurance, no license, no nothing. Yeah.
And I guess it's their car.
And their car.
Yeah. That's
And that
how
was
it is.
their car.
I
And they knew
wonder
she was in the car. They knew she was driving the car. So I said to the
Wow.
police, get the parents the ticket, please, because they stupid.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
said, now y'all gonna fix. I called my insurance company. Oh, I have what you call platinum. It replaces my car. So when my insurance agent came, he said, tomorrow I'll be bringing you a rental, because that's what's in my contract. Well, I do read my car contract though, because I've got fooled by that before. I got a rental car, and my insurance company fixed my car, and then I tell them they need to go sue the people because I'm paying and my insurance ain't going up. I'm so
Thank
sad.
you.
That's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the
But
parents got the ticket, you know.
Oh, they got it.
Yeah, the police stated because she was 16.
What?
And they knew she was 16. They knew she was driving the car and she was a little bit inebriated. And that is why I didn't want her to hop back in the car to drive.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, well, like I say, that's what has happened here. And a lot of times, the case never has come up.
Because someone knows someone.
Yeah, that's how it is here. You know.
One bus driver hit my car and that they gone. But I said, I got something better for you. I knew the judge, so I went to the judge and I said, they need to figure this one out. And then the police get in trouble. They always doing that.
Yes, they do. Like with anything, that's what happens. And, you know, our little country is so small, so everybody know everybody. And that's why I always say certain things, they just need to bring foreign people in to do things because, oh, I Charlie know my daddy. Oh, I got to worry, you know? Yeah. Go on,
do you
Miss.
think there's an insurance coverage if the driver hits, like you said, like a taxi driver and they can't work anymore? Would my insurance, if he sues me or take me to court, would my insurance?
I done.
But should, you know, like I tell you all, was it yesterday? I was telling you all that this guy who was in my class in risk management and insurance, he said to me, he said, Miss Smith, because we don't read the fine print, you'd never know. And he said, you know, like I told all of you, on the pedestrian crossing and you get hit and you can't work and you have children and you can't work to take care of them, that, or you die or something happened to you, that person insurance, they have full comprehensive insurance. There's a clause in there and they have to take care of that child until the child reaches to adulthood where he or she can work for herself. He told us that. But like I said, because we don't read the fine print, we don't know. Yeah. And so it's always good to read the fine print with all contract agreements. It's always good to read it. So, Miss Burrows, if you hit the taxi or the bus, know that, and the bus can't drive, they can say you up there. I make $500 a day. So what will you do? $500 a day?
But again, the insurance company may say to me that I was negligent, so they would not be required to pay.
Right. So what you can do? Where you can find $500 a day, even if you have it, you think you want to pay for you can make quick and hurry, find somebody to fix that bus.
Yeah. Only in the States where the government is paid for these.
Yeah, not here.
Yeah.
You can continue for me.
Okay. Where am I at? Property damage. Okay. Loss may be due to a loss from actual damage to the property, as well as the loss of use of the property. That's
what that means. Because you say you have a food business and the property got damaged. What happens there? You can't use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hey, that's your income coming in every day. But what happened? I know down the road on Carmichael Road, they used to have a Sammy's down there, and What happened at you see it open back up yet? No. I thought it would have been open. So yeah, that can happen.
That would be a building structure though, eh? As opposed to a property.
But it is a property.
Yeah, it is. They still look at all of that as a property.
Property.
I remember when they say personal is something different, where personal comes into play with your little car or your little animals or your textbooks and stuff like that. But property damage, yes, property damage is still saying it's a part of the building. The building is there, part of the property.
Okay. Right, you did say whatever's on the property going up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, personal injury result from libel, slander, invasion of privacy, false arrest, etc.
So the Carly B something. Let's go there. Waiting for that one tonight. Oh yes.
With the lady,
so how that woman get $4 million for someone saying something?
Who is that? Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
All I know is $4 million. But they listed ours. It was $1,500,000 for this, 1.5 for this, 1 something for this, and $1 million, 1 point something million for the lawyer. That's all I remember.
Whoa. Why? What did they say?
I don't know. She said something bad. She was a druggie, something prostitute, a bunch of stuff. I don't know. Ain't that? I want to know the results. So the libel and slander.
Yeah. What they do to her?
No, they talked about her. I guess about her back in the day, and say she was a robber.
That's what I mean. Libel. And they slandered her name.
Yeah.
Invasion of her privacy.
Yeah.
Well, false arrest. Well, you've been seeing recently a lot of persons been getting money from government for police brutality, false arrest, persons who've been put in the detention center, forgotten. The government has been paying. I saw somebody just got some 24,000 for something that the police did, false arrest or beat him or something like that. So the government had to pay him. Yeah.
That nigga was gonna work and pay that himself, pay that bill himself.
Government, well, the police officer, I don't know what happened to him, but government had to afford that.
I was gonna make him work and he was gonna pay me back. That was gonna be a loan.
Well, the government paid it. They had to pay it. Yeah, and I don't know what they said the police will face some backlash from it, but I don't know whatever happened.
That disciplinary action ain't gonna help. He's gonna need to work, and he's gonna need to a portion of his salary go back to pay me back.
Put back in the treasury.
Yeah, pay me the taxpayer back.
Well, I don't think that's what has happened. Yeah, and then these lawyers, because we know Fred Smith. He just make a killing because he defend all these people who get locked up in the detention center, people who get lost in prison and forget. You see that guy was it Africa? Well, he got a lot of money. Government had to cough up a lot of money for him.
You remember the Chinese man who been locked up for almost 30 years? That was like 9 years.
Yeah, him too. So government taxpayers' money always seem to be having to be dished out for things that could have been avoided if the system did their due diligence. Yeah.
But our legal system is extremely slow, so therefore, there will be cracks in
It's slow, but it's also, how could you lost somebody in prison for all them years and you even ain't charged them yet? Oh.
Too much paper.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Agnes Burrows.
All right. And I guess legal expenses, that's self-explanatory, I guess.
Yeah.
They will pay your legal expenses.
So that would be like court costs and lawyer fees.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right.
and fines.
Yeah. Criminal and civil law, Miss Burrows. Let's finish that section.
All right. Criminal and civil law. Criminal law directed toward wrongs against society. Examples include murder, robbery, rape, assault with a deadly weapon.
Well, that's like we know that's what it is, criminal law. Yeah, because like we have lawyers who practice criminal, corporate, civil. Yeah. So criminal law is just wrong against the society. Yeah. And civil law.
I see that, but I'm trying to understand how that intertwined with the risk or with this.
That's just okay. Remember too now. That's just a part of like we're running through talking about the different type of laws and exposures. Criminal law and civil law is directed towards wrong against the society, and it's just like a damage.
Okay.
Same thing with civil law, because like with civil law, even though somebody say they were charged, like what the guy named O.J. Simpson, remember, there was a criminal law against him because he committed something against the state when he murdered someone. But then her family on the back end, they sued him, and which was a civil case. So civil law came into place. So that's just like a loss or exposure because of a crime that he committed.
Okay. All right. Civil law is directed towards wrongs against individuals and organizations. Examples include breach of contract and negligent act.
Okay, like say for instance, I remember when I worked at Finco, you know how many times it was, well, I guess it's civil because the bank would be going after customers. And I had a situation where a guy, he wrote so much bouncing checks and you couldn't find him. It was like he just knew you was out there. And then the persons in the branch who was responsible for ensuring the checks were returned on a timely basis, they didn't. And so like, and he didn't write a check for $2, like $3,000. And these checks hit his account, and because they didn't do the due diligence to make sure that the check was returned, and he owed the bank so much money and trying to get him. I had to go to court and he never came. And you'd find that a lot of persons in court where the banks are suing them, they Commonwealth Bank, you just go and the people will say, well, I could only pay $20, stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to torts.
Yes, please.
Oh, did we do civil law?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you did.
All right. Torts. Legal injury or wrong to another that arises that of actions other than breach of contract. Courts will provide a remedy by allowing recovery in an action for damages. Give me an example for that.
Legal injury or wrong to another that arises that of an action other than breach of contract. Well, say for instance, a legal injury or wrong to another arises that of an action other than a breach of a contract. Court will provide a remedy by allowing recovery in an action for the damage. Well, the only thing I could say when looking at that, okay, say for instance, it's not a breach of contract, but you live in somebody's apartment and you didn't breach the contract by not paying, but you damage a lot of stuff in there. And so because if you damage it, you'll have the contract in place, a legal contract. As we know, a lease is a contract is a legal binding item. So if you damage stuff in there, which in the contract, it stated that these things, the landlord went through all these with you and these were all in place. But now you finish your contract, everything is done. When the landlord goes in, not knowing that you damaged the tub, damaged the ceiling, damage the floor, damage all of that. Because you have persons who do it, and then even with their security deposit, do not cover all the damages that they do. They didn't breach the lease by leaving before time. They didn't breach it. They still had the security deposit, but the security deposit did not cover all the damages that was in the apartment. So if you put down,
Like
say
if you rent an apartment and you said no smoking, no illegal drugs and all that, and then
and
you
then you look
smoke
the
and you
police,
drunk,
and then you
right?
look the police rock up there and kick your door down. Because like I say, I had a situation like that. All I see was khaki in my yard, and I was like, what is this? And what happened? I was like, what happened in there? Then the man in khaki can look at it. Must see but 6 khaki. And the guy could look at me and he could say, I looking from the balcony and I looking down. I know what the hell all these policemen. Some in the back of the yard by the apartment, and they say, oh, these people selling drugs in your apartment. For me, where I don't never come outside, I never know nothing, because there was a guy or across the road. He was a DEU, I believe, so he was watching them. And child, the police then was surrounded, because what they said that the girl, they was trying to flush the stuff in the toilet. So that's when the police kicked the door down. And trust me, when the police kick the door or damage any of your property, they don't fix it.
Yeah.
They don't. They kicked the door down, ransacked the apartment, and they did not do anything. And like you say, when people, which you just said, but them causing the damage to it, yeah.
And
Selling
also,
illegal.
I know of an instance where someone they weren't supposed to smoke in the apartment, but they were a real smoker, so they left, what you call it, a smoker's scent,
Oh, yeah, that hard to get out of the car,
and it's hard
get
to
out
get
of the
out.
house. Yes, it's very, very hard to get out. Yeah, and some people, like I say, and because as landlords, we don't do our due diligence by doing our checks. We
Yeah.
never know what's going on, because if you have in your contract where every 3 months you go and check, you'd pick up certain stuff, but we as landlords don't do our due diligence. So stuff like that slips through the cracks, and you can't recover that. And people could look at you straight. And like I say, the system where you carry people to court for your rent, carry people to court for, like you say, damage. Do you get it? No, you don't. The tenant get more rights. The tenant gets the right, not you.
Yeah.
The tenant gets the right. You don't get the right. The tenant, that's why the new president of the I guess the Association with Legal to Do, Parker, he said that they're now going to put things in place where landlords are also protected, because the tenants are protected, but the landlords are not. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on, where am I? Okay. All right. Legal injury results when a person's rights are wrongfully invaded. Right of personal privacy, right to enjoy one's property, and right to be free from personal injury.
Well, like I say, nowadays, I know with me, sometimes I just want to go outside and just, one night I looked up there, I was like, hold on. Even if I have an emergency, I can't even get out of my gate. Every car, the people across the way was having a big party, and everybody parked in the front of my gate. You couldn't move if you wanted to move. And so to me, they always doing that. So that's invasion to me, and they making noise till 2 o'clock in the morning. I swear they need to put curfew back in place. They need to put curfew back in place. I mean, they don't have to say 10 o'clock. but at least by 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, put that curfew in place, because people just doing for more. They don't care. That's why we wonder why COVID is out there, because people just don't care. And then you have people who come on your property, you know. You have a coconut tree there. You hear them. You hear them. I heard the guy, all I hear was drop, drop, drop. It's like they go up in the tree. The guys up in the tree and taking the coconut down. So they need to sell coconut. Yeah. So people don't care. You have no rights. You have no privacy, even though you have your yard fencing, walling. People don't care. And like we were talking about, the same lady, personal injuries, because look at her. She was coming out of her car and in her yard, and those dogs attacked her in her yard. She didn't go across in the person's yard, the neighbor yard. She was in her yard, and that's what happened. Miss Nan, can you read basic laws of negligence?
A basic law of negligence. The Negligent Act. Negligence is the failure to exercise the degree of care required by law. Conduct that a reasonably prudent individual would exercise to prevent harm.
Anybody want to expand on that?
So isn't it like when you're driving a car and you're driving in a reckless manner?
Yeah, and we know that happens a lot.
And you hit somebody's car or you hit somebody? Wouldn't that fall as a negligent act?
It is. It falls under negligence because, like we know, a lot of times people drive. I was driving behind someone today, and the guy was just on his cell phone. I thought that was they didn't bring that to law anymore, where if you got caught using your cell phone while you're driving. Can't be, because I see so much people.
That is on the books.
Can't be. And so that's the reason why you have so much accidents. Negligence, people don't care. Negligence, like I think we were talking, I think it's this class, we were talking about the guy who killed the couple, and he got, what was his sentence? Did he pay a sentence? Did he pay a fine? And that was negligence. And his car he had no insurance on his car. I remember them saying that he had no insurance.
And he was intoxicated. He was
That's
drunk.
what I mean. That's
He
what
got
I
a
mean.
fine.
He got a fine. He killed two people.
Slap on the wrist. That's what he got.
He killed two people and he got a fine.
A slap on the wrist.
Yeah, and he got a fine. I definitely don't understand that, you know. A negative act, Miss Nan.
A negative act. Failure to do something. Negligence may be the failure to act when there's a duty to act.
And who does that? Who do we know in our country does that? The police.
The police. The
The
police.
police.
The police. They don't care. Even the system. Look at the system. I was reading about this guy who admitted that he kissed a 6-year-old boy. He pulled him in the bush and kissed him, and they give him 9 months. What is that? You know?
He should have just cut off his lips and that would have been fine.
Pardon me?
Cut off his lips, that would have been fine.
Yeah, but they didn't do nothing. 9 months. That could traumatize the young boy for life. A man kissing me. But
Gone to jail?
9 months.
Or they banning him? Don't worry about that.
I hope so. God forgive me. A positive act.
Positive act. The doing of something.
I guess you do something about something that is wrong. Yeah,
Like to report a crime.
Reporting crime. Yeah.
And you know, now you can report and get some money. Crime Stoppers. You could report. I know those persons got all kind of guns around the corner, so you could report them and get some money. Continue, Miss Nan.
Basic law of negligence. A voluntary act, one that is done voluntarily. An involuntary act is excusable. A negligent act is not excused because there is no intention to harm.
Okay, what do you take from that, Miss Burrows?
Hello?
I said, what is your take on that? Voluntary act.
When you intentionally try to harm someone.
Mm-hmm. And involuntary.
I guess self-defense or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah, but like if someone comes after you, are you just gonna sit there and let them do you in? Even when it comes to not only crime, it comes to you protecting your name. Will you just sit there and allow someone to, like that woman who make all the money, slander your name? No, you won't. Yeah. Miss Nan.
An imputed act. One is liable not only for one's actions, but also for the negligent acts of service or agents acting in the course of their employment or agency. Employers may be sued because of negligent acts of their employees. Vicarious liability.
Yeah. Like I say, employees may sue because of negligent act on them. Like when it comes to moral hazard, like say, an employee could trip down, an employee could get shocked by something because of a wire wasn't detected. And you know, sometimes you work in companies, the carpet, your heel probably missing. Okay, that carpet, you fall straight down. So you could, sue the company for it, which I don't think a lot of people will, because they still want that job. So they ain't sue. They just to call it, I gotta go to the doctor, insurance gotta pay. They ain't gonna sue
Probably
the
claim
company.
industrially.
They even gonna do that because they so I need this job. Yeah, so they probably wouldn't even do that. All right, Miss Nan.
Proximate cause of the loss. There must be an unbroken chain of events leading from the negligent act to the damage sustained.
Oh, somebody mute. Okay. Defense against negligent claims.
Okay. Contributory negligence. If both parties are to blame in a given accident, may not collect against the other, even if the defendant was 90% to blame and the plaintiff only 10% to blame.
Okay, Miss Burrows, that's like with the accident now. So even if you 90% to blame and somebody 10% to blame, you also gotta fix your own car.
In that case, they won't pay out then.
No, you have to assume the risk. That's your risk. Your risk is you driving. Your risk, you have to assume a portion of the risk, and the next person got to assume their portion of the risk. So y'all come together, and everybody, even though you may be 90% responsible, the other person 10%, you still got to assume your own risk, and you got to assume your risk. Which is unfair because you had the 90% which cost my car almost total, but I was just at fault. So both of us just come together and say, okay, I take care of my own car, fixing of my own vehicle. Assumed risk.
Defendant may raise the defense that the plaintiff has no cause for action because the plaintiff assumed the risk of harm from the conduct of the defendant, the condition of the premises, the defendant's product.
Defendant may raise the defense that the plaintiff has no cause for action because the plaintiff assumed the risk of the harm from the condition for the conduct of the defendant. Well, I guess with that, if you say, well, somebody, y'all two together was in an accident. I got injured or I got harmed, something happened. We both at one point decide, well, we both assume the risk. Whereas, they always say, like, if you drive through a gas station and you get in an accident, or you get in an accident on a private, like in the mall, do you know that the police is telling you you need to figure that out on your own? You all have to come together with that.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
it's on private property and not the government road, right?
Yeah, so they tell you, you all do have to come together. And you know how we like take shortcut to the gas station and stuff, and you get an accident that way, you're responsible. Y'all have to come together to sort it out. I know one time I was at a gas station and I thought the guy was finished with pumping my gas and tell me I could go. Jesus, I almost got the people over the pump. I say, Lord, that would have been me having to pay for these. I would have been the defendant destroying the people product. Yeah, so I had to tell my son, say, Mommy, the guy ain't finished. I was like, oh my God, I almost pulled the whole thing out of the pump. Yeah. All right, Miss Nan.
Gas toll statutes relate to the standard of care by an automobile driver to a passenger.
Okay, when they say that, okay, most of the time now we find that the passenger dies and the driver survives. Most of the time you find that scenario that the passenger died. I saw them charge a guy recently. The passenger died and he lived, and they charge him with negligence. So, that could happen because that person in there is a guest and you driving. So even though you might have been paying attention and you did what you had to do, but an accident occurred and the passenger died, but you survived. And I think they charge him. And even in a situation with a boating accident, a guy was charged because one person or two persons drowned. So he was charged with the boating accident. Y'all remember the boating accident in when they were having something to Cat Island?
Yeah.
All those people got injured. Whatever happened with that? No, Cat Island. Whatever happened with that?
Yeah, what's Cat Island? It was a U.S. tanker boat or something.
They was going to a regatta, but I was saying, whatever happened, because some people lost their legs, some people, it was so much damage, some people died, and I never heard anything but what was the consequences of that. Anybody got charged? I couldn't remember because it was a tanker or something, or a freight boat or something, but I never remember what was the result in it. Anyone?
I think the guy who was captain of the boat, he died.
Oh, okay. And then probably the owners of the boat, did anybody get charged? Because a lot of times people just drive in the boat. They're not the owners, a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember anyone getting charged for that accident.
Okay. All right, thanks, Miss Nan. Miss Knowles, not brown nose.
I'm
Chanel,
trying to
something-
remember what happened.
Okay.
I know
can
the
you-
time they paid out though. I know they paid out to some family members.
Oh, okay, all right. But like I say, when with anything in our life we do is a risk. You put your life, when we jump on the plane, it's a risk because guess what? We put our life in that captain's hand. We put our
Yeah.
life to say that the plane is secure, that everything is working properly on that plane. So same thing when you jump on a boat to go to a regatta, what happened? Anything can happen. So like I say, everything in life, most stuff is a risk. We take out insurance, it's a risk. We don't take out an insurance, it's a risk. So most stuff in life today, it's just a chance. We take chances. Ms. Knowles, I wanted you to read the type of liability exposures.
Okay, contractual liability. One's liability may be imputed to another by contract. For example, a city may require that its street paving contractor hold the city harmless for all negligence arising out of the operation of the contractor. So that
Right,
means
okay.
that that means that, for instance, if they're cleaning the roads and they're using slippery items or obstructions or in persons where they fall down or something falls on them, that he is not responsible for it, but the government or the municipality is responsible. That's what I mean?
Yeah, right. Just like a lot of times you see them say they fixing the road, they'll have all these little orange things in the road, and then people who don't pay attention end right up on the lane that they have closed. So that has nothing to do. They ain't responsible for paying. The government will have to pay for that. But like I say, a lot of times, sometimes you're driving on some Myla Butler Highway and you're just driving, and if you don't pay real attention, you realize that one side of the road is closed off and you could actually get in an accident. And I know one time we had five cars back to back hit one another because somebody wasn't paying attention, and it just resulted in an accident. All right, Ms. Knowles.
So before we move on, let me ask you. I was
Mute. Somebody get to mute.
I was driving in Pinewood one day, and it was raining, right? Or it had rained, the water had settled, and I kid you not, I dropped in a hole. Listen, I'm telling you, like the people in the area came running out because they thought like it was a big, huge accident.
What?
And it broke my what you call the thing with it be on the tire? What you call it?
The axle? The arm?
Not the axle, the rim. It literally cracked the rim. That's how hard it hit. So and of course, if you don't have insurance or if you don't have comprehensive insurance to fix your vehicle, because it kind of mess up the vehicle, shouldn't the government be entitled to pay for my expenses due to the negligence of the potholes in the road?
But they say the government do, but you have to be the one to take the pictures. Take the pictures to show. Yeah, they say you could get payment from the government for that, just like if BPL, your fridge on, they got to carry you so much things and say it ain't a problem that your fridge get destroyed or this item, your TV or your microwave, because the surge that electricity come back on. We know. Yes, the government is responsible for paying you as long as you take the picture and you're able to show that, hey, look at my car. And that's why when I travel, especially when it rains, roads that I know, because I know where them hole is. So I travel roads that I know when it rains, because I say, I know that's a pothole over there. Yeah, because you know with us, we don't fix the potholes properly. All we do is put a little bit of fill in it, then slap a piece of towel on it, and the rain come down. What happened? The hole eat right away again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the government is responsible for, just like they say here, the government is responsible for paying for that. But you have to be the one to take the pictures and be able
And
to show.
report it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have to do that. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, employee liability. Employers are still subject to the law of negligence with respect to employment not covered by workers' compensation laws. Duties owed to employees must provide a safe place to work. Must employ individual reasonably competent to carry out the task, must warn of danger, must furnish appropriate and safe tools, must set up and enforce a proper rules of conduct of employees as they relate to the safe working procedures. Now, all of this went out the door with COVID.
You think that's how you feel?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Because
Nothing has changed. No protocols were set. No.
Even with COVID, I've learned that a lot of places, even though one or two persons tested positive for COVID, like how they tell you have to deep clean and all the rest. Somebody who had to go home because they got COVID on the job, they said, and there was no deep cleaning and nothing done, and other people went back on the job. So, yeah.
That only happened when we only did the deep clean. Well, when I say we, I mean we as Bahamians, not necessarily. But companies only did deep cleaning when COVID was new, when it was,
I just want to say that. That's because it was
yeah.
new.
So now you think a lot of them don't?
COVID? Yeah.
No, ma'am. All they do is bleach, do the regular clean, and get back in office if they clean.
And spray Lysol.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
the regular
Spray
clean
Lysol.
can even be a regular clean.
No, they spray beef. They spray
beef.
beef.
No, we have Lysol.
Good enough for Lysol. Beef and get back to work.
Yeah, but that's true, because like I say, I know I've seen it happen. You go take the COVID test to make sure you don't got COVID and back to work, but where does that fall? On these
no
COVID
quarantine, no nothing.
These COVID police. Like someone said they had COVID. They say Ministry of Health can call you or somebody can call you. The girl says she had to call them. But they never call her.
No, they don't do contact tracing no more.
Jesus.
Not
they don't have COVID police no more.
She had to call them. But I see the COVID police today when I went by my work at the mall, and they was just there. I was like, you don't even hear nothing but them. Because like I didn't even find no number because I was waiting. I said, Jesus, I didn't even remember that number that they say call. So I could call the COVID police for these people in the back here who was at this party and no social distancing and all the rest. And they talk with COVID. That's why the young people, just a lot of them they don't care. But like I say, like y'all say, when COVID first happened, yes, a lot of companies were doing their due diligence by doing it. But now there's some people now, when the minute one person move from the teller wicket, the person come cleaning it off with their Lysol spray and hope they catch everything, because what happened if they didn't catch everything in my hand on that counter and I have COVID, so, and then we take this temperature thing, it's like I say, that's the reason why. But a lot of government don't do their due diligence. And like everything else in the country, we start and then we stop. And so on the job, we still at risk, moral hazard, we still at risk, because they have to make sure that it's safe. And if you haven't deep cleaned as you should because several persons tested positive for COVID, then person shouldn't be at work. Everybody should be able to, persons who work from home. If persons can't work from home, then close the building down, you know?
But are they also requiring persons to pay for their own testing? Some companies?
Well, I heard Mr. Sands was talking about that, especially with them. So I guess, but now see the government have that free testing. So I see a lot of hotel workers, a lot of persons on that line to get that free testing. Yeah. Well, I scared of that free testing because I think y'all get, say I got COVID when I have it, so I gonna go pay for my COVID test. Not me. Nada. I gonna pay for. I had to take a COVID test yesterday because my granddaughter, she said she gone to school for 1 week and get sick. I said, gee, 1 week.
That's the weather change, Miss
But
Smith.
that's not COVID. That's our immune system not
It's
being right.
supposed
No,
to
but
be,
I say I went. No, but you know nowadays they tell you the children can't return to school unless you go take that COVID test because they think you got COVID. So I took it because of me. I just, and I have sinus, so I took it because of me, and then I took it, make sure she take it. So that was $66 right there for 2 people just for a COVID test. $66. So I had to pay that. We both were negative, but before I even, because today was the first day I went back into my job, I went to pick up some stuff, but even though I went, because I work from home, I went to pick up some stuff, I still had to show them, hey, see my COVID test, so y'all don't tell me that I bring COVID in here. So I still had to show them that I did my COVID test, yeah. So I did it because I had to go in to pick up some work, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like I say, companies are not doing what they're supposed to do. And like y'all say before, when COVID first started, you know, they were doing it, but not anymore. Yeah. Continue, Miss Knowles, for me.
Okay. Property owner tenant liability. The tenant or owner owes a certain degree of care to those who enter their premises on their own risk. Invitees, individuals who are invited on the premises for their own benefit as well as for that or tenant. Before we move on, let me ask you a quick question on this. Someone say if someone break into your house or come on your property and they get injured, hurt, drown in your pool, you are liable, but you're not invited. Why is that so?
Well, suppose you mean if someone just actually come on your property and drown and you didn't invite them there and they came on your property and drowned, you're liable for it?
Yeah, okay, so if you have a pool and you're not home, it's secured, you have the area locked in and whatnot, and some kids decide they want to break in and have a fun time in your pool and one of them drowned. They're saying that you are liable. Why?
How I liable? How? You weren't invited?
I just was reading. Yeah, I was happy to read this because I have plenty of questions on this one.
You weren't invited?
Let me give y'all a scenario though. I had a teacher, someone broke into on his property and was trying to get in his house, right? And he went out and he got his gun, and after the thief heard him coming with his gun, he tried to break off running and off the property, and he shot the guy. And do you know
back in the house?
He lost his job. The owner of the house lost his job because he was charged because he shot the guy in the back. So the law is if the person is trying to evade and you still go and injure the person, then he got charged with manslaughter or attempt, not manslaughter, attempted murder. Yeah, because the person wasn't trying to still continuously bring harm to him. He was actually trying to leave and evade the premises. And because he shot him in his back, he lost his government job. And he was charged with that, with someone coming
Yeah.
on his property and his
Yeah, but
license got gun.
Yep, but that's what
to use.
happens. And that's why I remember me saying to police, because I heard that. And I said to police, what do you think? If somebody come in my house and they try run out my house and I shoot them, you think I can leave them outside? I drag them back in the house. And the police look at me and say, Miss, you can't. I said, how you gonna know what I do? How you know what I did?
I shoot him
It's in
inside
my
the
house.
house. He was running. Oh, I like you.
And so the police say, you know, that's wrong. Or I said, but how you gonna know? He was running. Because if I shoot him, he can come back in my house. So I shoot him and I drag him back in. I know somebody who that happened to too on the waterfront out east. And he shot the guy. The guy was breaking in his house and he shot the guy and he had to go to court. He didn't get charged, but because the guy died too, but he didn't get charged because he didn't shoot him in the back, I guess. He catch him red-handed in his house. So that's but he still had to go to court. Yeah, but they say that.
They still have to go to court, they say.
Yeah, but they say if somebody invaded and running away and you shoot them in the back, or you going to court for that, you get in charge. But that's why I say I ain't gonna go to court because he in my house. I shoot him and he run outside, I run him back in the house. No way. Because he can come back. The bottom line about it is criminals will come back. They get away once, you think they're not gonna come back again. Actually, they will. They will. They will come back.
Kill them one time, one less felon.
Yeah, so yeah.
Licensees. Those who are on the premises for legitimate purposes with permission of the occupier include meter readers, mail delivery drivers, police officers, or inviting them on their premises.
Or you don't have to invite the police officers on your premises. They come on your premises. I was not here. My husband's nephew told me, he's a defense force officer. He said, around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, he just saw all this flashing light. And so he came out of the apartment and he went to see what was happening. So when he looked, must see but 30 police in my yard with their machine guns and all the rest. So he asked them what they doing there, what's their problem, where they search warrant, whatever. Say, and the police officer look at him and say, you can't read my name? He asked him what his name, you can't see my name printed on me? Look, see my name. And so he just said, but you have a warrant. They asked him for one person, say, people tell them the person live here or run here. I'm like, it was a good thing he was here, because if he wasn't, they would have kicked down every door in my apartment to find if they see this person who they looking for. So him being he's a chief petty officer on BDF. They didn't know that, but that's why when people say that police does things wrong, it is true. Because he said the guy doesn't have so much attitude with him. And he said, I'm an officer. So the guy can say, yeah, let me see your ID. Bring your ID. Who live there with you? Who up there? And who here? Because like I have like 5 apartments. Who here and who live there? And then they start to come more in the yard. My son he has a townhouse, 3 townhouses next to me. And he said, no. Where your search warrant? Why y'all in this yard? No, you can't go over there. And so they was just carrying on until he showed them. I hired an all of y'all. When he pulled out his chief petty officer badge and they realized who he was, he said, then they start saying, we sorry. So that's what they do to civilians. So if he was in here, what would have happened? So that's why I say,
you would have been fixing plenty windows and doors.
Thank you, And
No,
so
you could have been straight, because after you sued them, you would have had a lot of money in your pocket.
Unless they get any money. The government.
Governments take a long time to pay you.
And you got to go fix everything yourself. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So when they say with police officers and stuff like that, the police officers shouldn't be in the yard unless they have a warrant. And that's why I say it's so good to equip your yard where people can't just really get in the yard. And I have a gate. I don't know if you know the little secret thing to pull the thing over to open the gate. And I guess, because a lot of times the tenants don't pull it across, so they were able to know where I need to push my hand right there and open the gate, Yeah. Continue, Miss Knowles.
Okay. So trespassers. One moment, please. All those over all those other than invitees and licensees who enter on the premises, no care is owed to a trespasser. You hear that? But an owner cannot set a trap or deliberately injure a trespasser. Well, I will deliberately injure you if you come in my property.
Yeah, but that's how it should be.
You can't, anyway. Current trend is to abolish the classification and to hold the occupier of the land liable under most circumstances for failure to exercise due care. What the? Hold on, let me read that again, please. Current trend is to abolish the classification and to hold the occupier of the land liable under most circumstances for failure to exercise due care. Okay, on my way. On my way.
Yeah.
I gotta remember this one.
Yeah, but that's how it is. Ms. Cartwright?
Yes.
Can you read the balance of the chapter for me, please?
Okay, no problem. Professional acts. The seller of service is required to use reasonable care not to injure others in the performance of those services. Example include physicians, accountants, architects, insurance agents, lawyers, pharmacists, beauticians. The standard of care required of professional people is broadly interpreted. These individuals must possess the skill, judgment, and knowledge appropriate to their calling, must conduct themselves according to recognized professional standards. Standards vary from profession to profession and are constantly changing as each particular field develops. Use of respira, liquidator in medical malpractice cases appears to have had the effect of turning doctors into insurers, may result in doctors being unwilling to try new procedures and treatments for fear of financial bankruptcy if the treatment should fail.
But I can't even see that because, like, with doctors and all, people in the medical field, especially physicians, and they have malpractice insurance. They have malpractice insurance, which allows them a certain amount of liabilities that they could incur. So I can't understand how come some of them, why would they decline to do certain stuff? Yeah. Anybody else have any take on that? All right, Ms. Cartwright.
Ownership and operation of automobiles. Under common law, an automobile owner is operator is required to exercise reasonable care in handling of automobiles. Important areas of negligence: liability of the operator, liability of the owner for the negligence of others operating the car, liability of employees for the negligence of their servants or agents using automobiles in their employer's business, even when the employer is not the owner.
Okay, like you have a lot of persons like Miss Burrows. So the vehicle that you have, that's a business vehicle?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's this refer to you.
Yeah. That's why I'm listening.
Ah. Yeah, that refers to you. Yeah, that refers to you. Okay, Miss.
Okay.
Mhm. Anything else, Chanel?
No, I was going to say, I guess, do you have like a get hit from or knocked down from a company truck or company
Mhm.
vehicle?
Mhm.
Um, the company will be required to,
Mhm.
I guess,
Yeah.
pay for. But of course, I would assume that the company would have insurance for all their drivers to get
Yeah, they
accidents.
should. They should. They should. Or all the drivers should be on the insurance. Yeah, because you know the one thing when you take out insurance, they make sure ask you when you fill out the application, is it for business or is it for personal use? Yeah. So people who can lie and say it's for personal use and it's for business, what happens there? If they get in an accident, what happens? People drive. And then too, you know, like you have persons who would borrow your vehicle and they drive in it, and what happens? They get in an accident. But there's insurance that as long as you have you have insurance, someone else who's driving your vehicle has insurance. You know, if they get in an accident, like especially with comprehensive, I believe, or even third party, the car, as long as they have their own insurance, but they just drive in your car, that's fine. And then they have because they're insured, they're already insured. So the insurance company will still pay for the damage. And then you have where you have open policies. So open policy, anybody the age of 25 and up can drive the car. Open policy, if you want somebody under 21 and under 25, you know, you have to pay that hefty insurance. But they have open policies where persons, as long as they have a valid driver's license, you just may have to pay a little extra, but you have an open policies where they could actually drive your car. Like your sister, she borrow your car, but you have an open policy, so it's okay if she get in an accident, the insurance will still pay. But Miss Burrows, if you make sure all your drivers on your insurance.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Miss Cartwright.
Ownership and operation of automobiles. Liability of the operator. Typical damage suit in the field of automobile liability. Impossible to lay down a comprehensive statement of which constitutes negligence in the operator of an automobile. Liability of the owner, non-operator. The courts have generally agreed that the automobile is not a dangerous instrumental in itself. One is justified in assuming that the borrower of the automobile is competent to handle it unless there is obvious evidence in incapacity or known recklessness. However, in many states, vicarious liability laws have the effect of making the parent of a minor child liable for damage done by negligent operation of the car by a minor.
Yeah.
Family purpose, sorry, you want me to stop?
No.
Okay. Family purpose doctrine. An automobile is looked upon as an instrument to carry out common purposes for the family. The owner ought to be responsible for its use when any family member uses it because the member is the agent of the family head and is carrying out a family function.
I lost on that one.
Are we?
Me too.
I guess that's like, I guess like that's just saying like if your auntie use your car for, I guess as a family member, the owner still is responsible for any damage done.
Yeah, like I was just saying before too. Remember, as long as the auntie, I short this out. As long as the because I remember with my insurance, it said I could have an open policy, and as long as the person have insurance, they have like a car, their own car insurance, but they drove my car, the insurance company should still pay for it. Where were we? Because I was looking at something else. Which part? Which was it? Liability of the owner, non-operator. Which Miss Carter? Because Miss Burris, you were saying you were lost.
That's family purpose doctrine.
I think so. Fine.
That's on page 18, the last bullet point.
Liabilities, even those who do not obtain for, okay, if by some legal obstruction that can be shown. Well, I don't have that. And what's the what is that? Because I don't have 18. Miss Burrows, what you were saying you didn't understand?
No, I think I understand what it's saying.
Okay.
If someone else you give permission for someone else to drive your vehicle and you know they're not insured, or not listed as a driver, and they have an accident, I'm responsible to pay for the damages.
Right, because that's the same thing Miss Knowles had when she said the parents tell us they don't call the police. So they got the ticket. Yeah, so they got the ticket. Okay, so that's just like I said, the courses is risk management and insurance. So that's a part of just telling you the different things that could happen with insurance related to cars and businesses and personal properties. But the handout that I sent to you, it deals with the rules of risk management. Some of you wouldn't have had a chance. Most y'all wouldn't have had a chance to look at it, but that deals with the rules of risk management. It talks about the don't risk more than you can afford to lose. So when they talk about what do you get if they say don't risk more than you could afford to lose? What scenario you can think about that comes to mind to say that don't risk more than you can afford to lose?
Let your 16-year-old drive your little boogie, and don't let them drive the Mercedes.
Okay, and then also when it comes to risk, don't risk more than you could afford to lose. Say for instance, like I said before, when we purchase shares, mutual funds, stocks, as we know, the market goes up and down, up and down. So say for instance, let's look at another example. When the crash, when we had that was in which year? That was 2011. When they had the bombing
9/11.
9/11. That was in 2011. I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. But no, that was in 2000. Yeah, that had to have been September 11. Can't remember which year, but it's terrible because I remember in September.
I think that's 2003. Was it 2003?
I can't remember, but I know it's September 11th.
It's 2001.
Oh, 2001.
Right. Yes, it had to have been 2001 because I left Finco in 2001 and I went to work at VNP Peritas. And when I went there to work, my second day on the job, the Beaumont house burned down because the guy threw the thing into the straw market, and the Beaumont house was right next to the straw market, and the straw market burned down. I remember, the straw market burned down, the Beaumont house burned down, and that was my second day on the job. Yes, it was 2001. Yeah, that happened September 11th. Yeah, the bombing. So what happened there? We had a lot of persons who had so much investments out there. And what happened with the bombing? People went to bed rich, wake up poor. Because of that same situation with the bombing. So when you have to know if you can take a risk, just like we talk about gambling, you could take all the rent money and you go into gamble. You're taking that risk. You know that's all the money you have, but you know you have to pay the rent or the landlord to put you out. But what you do? You risk taking that chance and you lost. And that's why I say don't risk more than you could afford to lose. So you win some money from the number house, you say, okay, now I win 4,000. I can keep that tree and play they won. But people don't do that, because when it comes to risk, people tend to, I guess they get a high on taking a risk. So they feel, well, if I do this, I could win more. And it's always, you could never beat the game. The game will always beat you. So, and that there is, don't risk more than you can afford to lose. And then always consider the odds. Like I said, I'm just doing a brief overview of what the handout has. And always consider the odds. And when it says consider the odds, individuals can determine the probability that a loss may occur. So when you, with anything, you purchase a vehicle, you purchase a repossessed house, what happens? It's a probability that a loss could occur because you purchased that repossessed house and you didn't foresee, then you go on there, everything looked good, but what happens? A loss, what happens? You wouldn't have known until now that you're ready to move, and then you find out that, hey, somebody decided that, okay, y'all want to take the house from me, so you know what I can do? I just take all the cement and throw it down the pipe. So they stand on top of the roof and just throw the cement down the plumbing pipe, and what happens? Every pipe of the get dig above the ground, because everything is clogged because the cement on it, down in it, so, and like I always say, anything we do is a risk. We put money in the bank is a risk, because if the bank pull up, you only get $50,000 back, because guess what? That's all the deposit insurance have you insured for. So you can have $1 million in the bank, and if the bank fold up, you're insured for, you better pray and hope that you're one of them who get most of your money back. But the deposit insurance after like I told you, the fold up with Gulf Union Bank, the deposit insurance only covers $50,000 per customer. So you could have all the money in the bank, and that's why people tend to spread the money around. So if I have 300,000, hey, let me put some 150 in Commonwealth, 150 there, 150 there. So hey, if something happens, all you gotta get my money back. But that's the chance we take by putting money in the bank too. A bank could fold up. Just like I tell my class, my business, a banking class, Clico was prime example with people took the risk. Okay, Clico was offering high rates on their accounts. So people took the risk and said, okay, I will take my pension money from Fidelity, and Fidelity only gave me 3%. Clico giving me 6%. So what they did, they risked taking their money from Fidelity because they wanted a higher return. And so the interest rate may have been more, but it was a risk. And they took the risk, and their total retirement investment money that they had, they what happened? They took the risk, so they lost. And I always wonder if most people got their money back, because we had like pensioners who retired, and because CLECO was offering them a good rate on their money, they took it. And like I always say with anything, why would you take a risk with a company that don't offer mortgage loans like that? What is the income that is actually, what are they actually earning, gaining? Only thing they have is your money, and they have to pay you. Remember, your money on a deposit account is a liability on the, it's a liability, because they have to pay you. They have your money, so they have to pay you that interest. Unlike when you have a personal loan, a mortgage loan, the bank is getting money from you, so that's their asset. But CLECO, I didn't remember CLECO ever having where they had given mortgage loans and such. So what happens? People took the risk and lost. So they lost. Same thing, like I speak to the situation with Bahama, with my class, business of banking class. I said to them, people take the risk. You took the risk that, okay, I have this steady, this secure job at Bank of the Bahamas, but you know, they ain't paying me no money, just a little bit of money. I've been here 5 years. Look at what they pay me. Hey, but guess what? I applied for that job at Bahama, but guess what? Guess how much Bahama could pay me? $2,000 more than they was paying me. So guess what? Girl, I leaving them. They took the risk and they went to Bahama. Why would you take a risk on a company that has no revenue coming in? Bahama didn't have any revenue coming in. They were trying to fill slots. No guests was coming in. They were just trying to put everything in place. And people took the risk of leaving their secure job and going to Bahama. They didn't look at it that way, but you have to actually look at the odds. This company doesn't have one guest on the property. All they have is employees. Why would I take the risk? They're just trying to come to market. And I'm going to leave my job where I've been for 5 years and take the risk because they offered me $2,000 when my job only offering me probably 3,000, but they can give me 5. 2,000 more than I make it. Man, you have to know that's a risk you're taking. So when you take that risk, what happens? So you have to know. You have to look at the odds and really sit down and say, what assets did Bahama have? What revenue was coming in?
Right.
Uh-huh. Hello? Yeah, so you have to look at it that way, and a lot of people didn't. So they took the risk of leaving their jobs. I know several persons who, I know one particular person who left where I used to work. And when I looked, they was back after Bahama. I guess they left on a good term, so they was able to get their job back. And then when I look again, they left and went back to Bahama again. I don't ever know what happened to the situation, whether they're still there, but people take the risk. Just like when you buy shares and you have a portfolio with a lot of investment, and you want a high return. So when you want a high return, what happens? You take the risk. The higher the return, the greater the risk. So you have the high risk, the medium risk, and the low risk. So people, when they want a high return, they take the risk to get more dividends, more interest. So they take the risk. And so the handout that I actually give you all, it speaks to all of that. And then we have a lot of practical stuff. It's just not like I'm just talking. I have charts, and all, it talks about don't risk a lot for a little. Sometimes like people risk, they say, okay, girl, I see that car, I'm gonna go buy that car, but girl, online, Japan, be forward of that car for $5,000, and I land that here, it can be like 9. Girl, you ain't see how this other company want to charge me so much money, but you're taking a risk because guess what? That car could come. That car looks so good there, right? But you've not been able to was able to jump in it, test it out, had somebody over there jump in it, test it out for you. A company just wants to sell the vehicle. They ain't worrying but whether it working good or you're gonna have little minor problems of it. They selling the goods. So they selling their goods, their product, and you as a consumer, you purchasing their product. So what happens when the car reached to you? You realize that the car smoking, all these different things wrong, but you choose to take the risk because you wanted something for a lower cost. So you took the risk to go and buy that car from Japan, be forward, bring it here, and realize that now what happened? You have to spend a whole lot of money to get that oil problem fixed. So, like I say, in everything we do, we take a risk. We take a risk. So you took a risk. You risk a lot. Maybe you may not see it as a lot because the car over here was probably $6,000 more, but you risk a lot because you got that car. But when that car reached here, you realize that the oil or the smoking problem that it have, you may have to take out the whole engine. So what happens there? You took a risk, a lot of risk for something little when you could have purchased a car here and didn't have to pay all the money to get something that you thought was working properly. And like I say, it talks about the same thing what we just talked about, risk identification, losses exposure, loss exposure checklist. And then I have a flow chart talking about production and processes, talk about the stages of production when you start from how it goes through the actual cycle. So I have that there too. But like I say, you'll get a better chance to look at it. And then we're going to talk about in that same handout, I have risk evaluation, risk mapping, or profiling. I talk about strategic concept, probability, and then I talk about the concept, talking about the mean, the mode, the medium, and the mode. And then we're going to have some practical stuff to do, like X equals X1. The mean is the sum of the measurement divided by the number. So all of that. So you're going to really have a lot to look at. Measurement of variation, standard deviation. Then I have a chart calculating the standard deviation. The formulas are there, but I need you to take a look at what we're going to be doing. So, and come with questions because we're going to have some practical stuff to do. And I'm not just going to use what is here. I probably give you some stuff out of the box to do and see how much you understand it. But we're going to go over it. But I want you to look at it, to read it, and then come back to me with questions. Because like I say, I have a normal chart, probability distribution. So a lot of formulas. And so Ms. Burrows, you'll be able to see some risk, something to do with actual risks. Like I say, insurance, health insurance, life insurance, all of those deals with risks. But I'm exposing you to actual practical work that we'll do. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you'll see that in the handout that I gave you. And I have several more handouts which you will get that totally helps you with evaluating risk. And like I say to all, if you really want to go in, well, in the book, it also talks about the credit risk, liquidity risk, market risk, interest rate risk, legal risk, reputational risk. As we all know, risk, reputational risk is one of the things that most banks try to stay away from, because if your reputation is at risk, people will say, you will have the little talks and people won't come as they usually do. That's why I say when it came to Gulf Union Bank, when they closed, there were rumors that they were going to close. And so people started to go there, stand online and wait. And eventually the rumors was true. And the bank did close with a lot of persons' money. Yeah, but take a look at the handout. I'm going to have more handouts for you where we can do some practical stuff. So we'll still do like in the book, but I'm going to give you some handouts with more practical stuff that relates to risk and risk management. Okay. But next week is a quiz on chapter 1 and 2. Like I say, if Mr. Pratt will allow me to invigilate, we probably have the quiz after, we probably have the quiz like the latter part of the class, but because the quiz is not going to be that long, but we'll go. So please look over the handout that I gave you, that I sent to you, and those who didn't get it, please let me know. But I sent it to everyone, I guess, who's on my list. So if you didn't get it, you can let me know. But I need you to go over that. Come with your questions next week. I'm going to have some examples for you all to show you all when it comes to standard deviation, when it comes to the mean, the medium, and the mode, how it's worked out. So we'll go over that. So please go over the handout so we're able to do some examples, and you'll be more familiarized with what I'm talking about when I show you the examples. Okay?
Any study guide for the quiz?
Yes, I will. I will. You mean for the quiz tomorrow, next week? Yeah. I always do. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Y'all have an early night because I really don't feel good. You see me here? I don't feel good. My sinus is bothering me, and yeah. But I'm gonna send y'all the a review sheet so y'all can review. Okay, for the quiz next week.
Okay,
And
good
then,
night. Be safe.
and also look at when the midterm is, and look at it to see the chapters the midterm is going to cover. Okay, and I'm also going to give you an assignment next week, because I give you a quiz, but I'm going to give you an assignment which is due the following week. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All righty. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.